inpatient psychiatric unit for 13 days. I never thought anything like this could possibly happen to Lynn, you know? In high school, I was pretty much drug and alcohol free. I was involved with every kind of club, like forensics and drama and soccer and straight A's, and I never had been involved with any of that until I left Pennsylvania. I knew I wanted to move to the city. I knew I wanted a career in theater, and I wasn't going to let anything get in my way. So when I got to the city, it wasn't like I got there and I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to use drugs. It never is like that. I mean, it just happens. Maybe like 2 months or so after I was living here, I tried it for the first time, and it was just like unbelievable. A feeling of like no anxiety and just like a pure good feeling. It wasn't about going out to clubs and like dressing a certain way or doing any of that. It was just like sitting around with people and talking until I really met Max, and it became something else.
We were using ecstasy, we were using cocaine. It was just the ecstasy what was so out of control.
I usually would take the pills like before we would go out and during while we were in the club, like while we were waiting in line, anywhere, anytime. Then sleep problems began for me, and literally it felt like I didn't sleep at all. When you're using something 1,000 times to reproduce the same feeling, it's like a carbon copy, you know? The more you do it, the blurrier it becomes. And that's how I felt about myself. I was becoming one big blur. I can't believe that no one said anything to me, but I was surrounded around people who were doing the same thing. It was Monday night, sitting at home in my apartment in Brooklyn, and I started to feel like, I don't like to talk about it, like the most anxiety you could ever feel.
She was just incredibly paranoid. She didn't trust me, she didn't trust her roommates or anyone who was there.
And I just had no sense of myself. I thought I was dead, and I kept saying to my boyfriend, am I dead? Are you not telling me something?
We had to get in touch with her mother and have her mother come get her because I didn't know what to do.
Well, when I finally had gotten there and pulled up, when I'd look at her eyes, it wasn't Lynn.
She said she thought she saw the devil.
It was like a bad movie that I was watching that I couldn't push stop or eject.
Lynn's mother drove her back home to Danville. In the emergency room, Lynn admitted to drug use.
Her mind was so confused that she couldn't think clearly about where she was, about what was going on. She was floridly psychotic when she came to the hospital.
He said, well, you can either commit yourself or your mother can commit you. At this point, I had said to Lynn, if you don't sign the paper, I will. Not knowing your own family and not trusting who you are, and it was just a really, really scary thing. We came home and, tried to take in everything that had just happened. I never in a million years said I would be in a secured locked room with like the window covered and padded walls. It was horrible. You start to think, is this, what's in store for her the rest of her life? Because I was totally, I totally didn't understand any of this going on. I kept trying to think, was there something I could have done to prevent her suffering like this? Thursday night, Max had called and just said, I'm just calling to see how Lynn's doing. Did she get some rest? And I said, right now, she's basically walking around in her nightgown, holding rosary beads and following a little 60-year-old man who is quoting the Bible. I said, that's the condition she's in right now.
I didn't really know what to do with myself because up until that day, we spent every waking hour together, basically.
How soon after that did you actually go and use ecstasy after that episode?
Never.
Oh, haven't since then?
No, I haven't done it since then.
I can tell you with 100% surety that Lynn had this problem because it was ecstasy as opposed to any of the other drugs that she was taking. We haven't reached the point in science to differentiate which it may have been. We had our medical record here that basically started at birth. And so I had a very strong history that showed that up until now, Lynn had no history of any psychiatric symptoms. We began looking at her medical workup. We checked her lab. We wanted to make sure there wasn't anything organic going on.
Very, very well.
Hey, you're looking good.
I'm feeling good.
We continued that workup by doing the neurospec scan. That was sort of the final piece in helping us clarify what Lynn was experiencing was most likely related to her drug use.
Lynn spent 13 days in the psychiatric ward. Upon her release, she began outpatient treatment. Today, she views her neurospec scan for the first time to see what brain damage may have occurred.
This is what we just finished doing as a study for you to evaluate what's happened in view of your basic medical problem. And this is a picture of a female who is a normal person. And this is a picture here of your brain. When we look at this here, what we see, look holes inside. Look how almost moth-eaten it looks there. That's where areas of memory are, association areas. All right, all set? Lynn, you're what, 18, 21?
22.
22 years old. I would say this would be the brain of someone in her late 60s or 70 that had multiple little strokes. Maybe what we should look on the positive side.
Yeah.
The brain has multiple alternate pathways, and we find that sometimes an area of the brain that may be destroyed, a function is regained either partially or totally because there's another way of getting around there, another circuit.
I don't think I'll ever forget that. I mean, that is, I wake up at night thinking about brain scan. What lies ahead for Lynn? I mean, none of us know our futures ahead, but this definitely, she has some mountains to climb.
I cause that to myself, but I can live a certain life that I'm going to live now, and I'm not going to let that tell me how I am. The way I look at it.
The trippy expressions and the devotion to expanding your mind. It's sometimes hard to tell the difference between 70s acid heads and millennium rollers.
It just lends you into a certain state of mind that's really pleasant.
It's the best feeling. Actually, I'm tripping out with your light right now.
And like many illicit substances, both LSD and ecstasy often produce the same result: media hysteria.
I can always remember the anti-drug class in 6th grade. What was the video they showed you when trying to scare you away from LSD?
The unfortunate person who gets started in this finds himself getting into an ever-increasing abyss.
They grew wings and they jumped out of a high window.
Get an ambulance. Call a doctor quickly.
Though today's reports on ecstasy may be a tad more sophisticated, many still rely on scare tactics.
It can kill you. It's ecstasy, and it's the drug of choice at rave parties.
Until the mid-'80s, however, MDMA was perfectly legal. The chemical compound MDMA was patented in 1914. With no apparent use, the drug disappeared until 1953, when the U.S. Army reintroduced it to conduct mind control experiments on animals. 20 years later, a group of avant-garde psychotherapists began giving the drug to their traumatized patients. MDMA helped magically uncover buried emotions.
You want to be an artist, don't you?
Shut up! Listen to me!
To give them a medicine that totally decreases the fear response, but still allows them to speak and open up, that's a very valuable tool in psychiatry.
A tool that some felt was too good to be kept secret. The trend began in a Texas underground lab and quickly gained notoriety in its edgy bars and clubs. It was legal, it was cheap, and it felt amazing.
So you'd be able to go to a bar and just order ecstasy over the counter, and the bartender would give you, a pill of ecstasy in a paper cup, and you'd pay for it as if you were buying any other drink. And then as a result of that, Lloyd Bentsen, who was a senator from Texas at the time, became quite concerned.
Senator Bentsen urged the Drug Enforcement Administration to hold hearings to determine whether MDMA should be declared Schedule 1, illegal with no accepted medical use.
The Drug Enforcement Administration is announcing its intention to place the drug known as MDMA, or by the street name Ecstasy, under emergency controls in Schedule 1.
Once things are made illegal, kids look the system right in the face and say, screw you. We're going to do our own thing, and we're taking this where we think it should be, and that's in a dark, dank warehouse on the east side of downtown Dallas.
It's much easier for ravers to get the drug than doctors, basically. MDMA has got a long history of being used therapeutically, and I'd like to see that happen again.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Shane Rockwood Stevens.
No real names.
Shh. Oh, my name's Hank.
He was 22 years old when he was diagnosed. Perfectly healthy, led a very good, healthy lifestyle, mountain biked 15 to 30 miles a day. And about 2 weeks after we went out, he went into the doctors and found out he had a tumor on his kidney. And when he moved in, I have 3 kids. He did great. He blended right in. He became Uncle Shane.
Come on, Uncle Shane, no time to spare.
The tumors didn't go away. His health was starting to deteriorate. The cancer had just put this big wall between the two of us.
You're worth it to me. I'll tape you.
No, you're not going to tape this. You're going to erase.
Well, I loved him so much that I couldn't walk away from anything. I wanted to so many times. He and I couldn't be in the same room together without somehow, some way going at each other's throats. We didn't want to be without each other, but we could not get along. And right around then is the time the first MDMA session was suggested to us. We had to procure it illegally right when his health started going down.
Yes. He cleared him.
We ingested it around 7 o'clock, and for some reason, we just decided to videotape. Okay, this is our version of the home movie.
This is our pharmacy here on the table.
And there's the puppy. At present time, it is approximately 7:30. We took that about 10 minutes ago. Nothing yet, except I'm hungry. We wanted one last night where we would have the closest possible evening we could have, the hug drug. In turn, we were able to cut. You okay? Yeah. Okay, right now what we're facing, Shane is terminal. He has renal cell carcinoma, kidney cancer. It has spread to his lungs. It has spread to his brain. About an hour, 2 hours into it, he goes to stand up. And he just got up with ease. And while he's walking there, he starts bending over and doing toe touches. And just acting goofy and happy.
Okay. I'm just so relaxed.
You must be, Buzz. You're even nice to the cat. Took a break for station identification, which would include Mountain Dew, distilled ice water.
Let me wobble on by here.
You go, Hank. He had sat down on the couch, and sometime after that, he looked at me and he said, "You know, it's great not to have cancer tonight." Testimonial to the camera, no pain.
I feel no pain.
That one night gave us 50 years worth of life in 10 hours. 50 years worth of closeness.
Shane Stevens died 2 weeks after the couple's last MDMA session. Today, Sue Stevens is an advocate for therapeutic use of the drug.
Over the past 16 years, on and off, I've done MDMA probably about 250 times. They're underground parties. It's artists, scientists, doctors, computer people. We get Wall Street people. We all get together and responsibly have a great time together. It's great fun, and generally older people like it. The young kids, damn spoiled little brats with their pacifiers, just want to take E and have fun and not have to think. So we've already got our own crowd.
From underground raves, ecstasy has gone positively mainstream. It's sampled by suburban teens, celebrities, and .com professionals alike. And despite how absurd a person may seem while on ecstasy, the Model E fan is often an educated consumer.
I believe that there are a vast number of people who use ecstasy, understand what they're doing, they've read enough about health and chemistry and pharmacology. I set myself through a whole long, intense stretching period thinking about what it was I wanted to gain from this drug experience.
One for me and one for him. I'm really glad to be sharing this with you again.
I'm glad to be in a beautiful place with beautiful friends around us.
I am. On a fabulous night in a fabulous city.
Indeed.
The start of a new beginning of our relationship.
My ecstasy use at this point in my life has come down to about seasonal use. It's not something that comes up as a really regular part of my lifestyle as much as a special celebration.
Excellent.
Ecstasy users do look goofy. They look silly, big grins, wide eyes, and kind of like floppy bodies. But what the hell, we all look goofy sometimes.
For Seth, a freelance youth counselor, and girlfriend Sophia, ecstasy is not only recreational, but self-illuminating. Seth discovered the drug at age 17. He claims it helped him overcome adolescent insecurities.
I grew up a little bit of a loner. I had a hard time talking to people, basically. I got quite overweight. Even after I had lost all my weight, I had such a negative view of my own self physically that trying to talk to people, I'd end up shying away and cutting off the communication. One of the very first physical changes I noticed when I took ecstasy was that I stood up straight and I was able to experience what it's like to feel that comfortable in my own body. I was taking these yoga classes, I was taking dance classes, but combining that with the ecstasy use, I felt physical exhilaration I had definitely not ever felt before in my life. It's definitely changed me, and I think for the better, even when I'm not on drugs.
I think my son maybe attributes some of his social life to his occasional or frequent use of drugs, but I attribute his completely being comfortable with people to his theater training. And maybe his reading and the fact that he's gone out and done a lot of things with people. I don't think it has anything to do with his drug use. On that, he and I may differ.
So do you want to stretch a little?
Let's wait till we start feeling high.
Okay.
Yeah, let's maybe go smoke our ceremonial joint and enter the evening with glee.
So you guys want to play Parcheesi or something?
No, I
Ooh.
I definitely feel when I'm on ecstasy is this joy of having a body. Especially since having grown up somewhat obese, having known what it's like to not be in my body, to not want to move my body, to now have increasing prowess. Oh, I cannot get that one right now. Admittedly, a little impaired. I would definitely not drive a car or operate heavy machinery. I'm always reminded when I take ecstasy of how beautiful it is. What a miracle and I don't know how to say it, blessing. What a grace.
Yeah, a grace. What a beautiful word for it. Something that we are bestowed upon, that we can shine, or if we don't know how to shine it, or if we haven't learned that we can shine it.
That's slick.
Some people hide behind it. I think that my body is a grace. It's strong. It's healthy. That was my longest one-arm handstand in my life.
Congratulations.
I'm very proud of that. What a fine night.
Among Seth's friends are fellow ravers with highly skilled, well-paid jobs in the computer industry. Steve, a successful software architect, bought his own home in San Francisco at age 25.
My own personal experience with ecstasy is that I've never done it. It's not something that's necessarily interesting for me to try, although I do believe in people's right to try it safely. My experience has been spending time with close friends who are using ecstasy and kind of participating in the contact high.
I'm actually getting eye wiggles off this. This is a pretty strong pill. I'm getting jaw stuff too. I didn't even notice it.
Your fingers also.
Yeah. Oh, my finger.
Yeah,
fidgety.
A friend of mine once said that the internet today, as we know it, was built by ravers taking ecstasy. Ecstasy opens up people's minds to ideas that they wouldn't have thought of normally. And that definitely correlates to career success, especially for people who have any kind of leanings towards being an entrepreneur. The best way to come up with new ideas is to find new inspiration. And if you happen to find those by digging through the deep, dark corners of where your brain is, if that takes psychedelics, that takes psychedelics.
There's two kinds of extremely important information that people should know about the drugs they're taking. And number one is what the drug's going to do to their body and how to reduce whatever damages could come out of that. And two, knowing what is in that damn little pill you buy on the black market that is called ecstasy.
Seth and Sophia test their pills with a kit they ordered from Dance Safe, a nonprofit harm reduction organization based in Oakland, California. Although the kits cannot determine the potency or the purity of a pill, it can, through a chemical reaction and pamphlet guidelines, tell you if a dangerous adulterant has been added.
What's this for? It's an adulterant screening test for ecstasy. You can tell if, it actually is MDMA or if there's speed or LSD or, anything else in there.
Police have granted us amnesty, agreeing not to arrest users who approach the table to get their pills tested. So these are all legal. Fake ecstasy tablets. Do you see these over here, these green triangles? Those were the pills that were sending most people to the hospital last fall. We got reports of those green triangles from almost every major city in the United States. They contain no MDMA, but high doses of DXM, a cough suppressant that in high doses prevents perspiration. And the biggest danger of raving is overheating. Most of these medical emergencies and most of the deaths that have resulted from raves have resulted from overheating. A lot of people are novelty seekers by nature, and they will take the risks, great risks, in order to experiment with various substances. And as long as that's the case, we feel there's a need to provide health and safety information. Some users have thought, because of the drink water motto, that water is an antidote for a bad ecstasy experience. And that's not true. Water won't bring you down from an ecstasy experience. It will only rehydrate you. And so now the standard line is drink water, but not too much water. I've tested personally 600-700 pills for people. I have never seen anyone consume a tablet after I told them it did not contain ecstasy.
My funding of Dance Safe is sometimes controversial. I feel the bottom line is I am saving lives. And also, I think the message is not that ecstasy is safe, but that ecstasy is risky. I think many people just take it, kind of for fun, and then they suddenly learn from Dance Safe, oh, there are definite risks.
Of course, it's always unfortunate to see the people that can't handle it. But of course I can recognize it as almost a rite of passage. That's how you discover your boundaries. I'm sure almost everybody on this continent has had a couple nights where staring into a toilet they swore off alcohol for the rest of their lives. And I think it's about the same thing. This once in a while, particularly as you're young and you're growing up, you have to cross a boundary in order to find out where that boundary is.
And I create Zen. Woo!
All right.
Lynn discovered her boundaries the hard way.
These are actually mind exercises we're doing for Lynn.
Yeah, so the part of my brain that I lost, I can grow back. It's supposed to be really good for you, though. Like brain power. To guess I really shouldn't be joking about the part of my brain that I lost.
Seduced by New York City life, but not emotionally stable enough to return to it full-time, Lynn remains in Danville and works in New York on the weekends to earn pocket money.
Like, people are calling and saying, you want to go out? It's hard to say no to them and say that I don't want to go out, or say that I'm going to stay in and go see a movie or play Scrabble. I'm not ready. I know myself. I know when I'll be ready, and maybe I'll never be ready to go back there, go back to those hangouts again, and maybe that's fine.
Though Lynn stays away from clubs, she and Max go to see Groove, a film about raving and ecstasy.
Super Groove, 6 o'clock. We weren't sure how well it would sit with her, if she was ready to see this kind of movie
If
yet.
I was prepared.
Just interested to see how they portray the scene.
What did he take? Somebody gave this kid GB.
Are we all invited?
Of course you are invited. This whole place is invited.
I just don't feel too hot. I just felt really panicky and not good and yucky, and I didn't really feel like staying and watching the whole thing. It just takes me back to that time and that feeling in my stomach that I can't even describe, a feeling in my head, and just stuff that I thought about in the hospital every day while I was in there, you know, that stuff. Thinking what put me there, and then going to watch it on TV or watching it in the movie. And it seems so harmless, and it seems so just like happy and great, but I mean, I didn't feel happy, and I didn't feel great in the hospital, and all my friends that were hugging and kissing me every time I went out to every club, they weren't in the hospital with me hugging and kissing me, you know. I had needles in my arm and whatever. It's just not a pretty picture.